everyone! Welcome to episode 101 of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who, unlike the subject of today's show, isn't that sharp. I give you the Brent.
That's true. I'm kind of blunt.
Yep. Boy, that's a truth. That's a sure truth. So, if you joined us last week, we spun the wheel, we made the deal, and this week we'll be playing games from the Sharp MZ line of computers. We made that mistake multiple times over the past week, and the streak continues unabated, Brent.
Let me tell you a little story about that. This is my funny I was going to tell on Discord, but decided to wait.
Good move,
so,
boy.
I went home, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get started on this right now. Sharp MX 2500.
Yeah.
Bam. Dishwasher.
Yeah.
I was like...
Also, a lot of copiers would come up.
Yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. Zero. Multifunctional copiers. I was like, well, we're screwed.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know a darn thing about this computer, and I know a little bit now, but the thing is, when you put this on the wheel, you just sort of put it on there and don't think much about it. But there's actually like 4 million computers in the and the MZ line.
I had no idea it was so vast.
And clearly, we decided to play games on the Sharp MZ 2500 computer, but then Brent didn't do that. So I've got some background on the MZ 2500, and then Brent can talk about what he played later on. So this is in fact made by Sharp. And was the Sharp MZ series. There's a bunch of series here. Just to touch on a few, you've got everything from the MZ 80K series. These debuted in 1978.
Crazy.
Think about that.
Crazy.
And they ran all the way up into the MZ 3500 to 6500 group. And these came out much later. In in 85, 84, 85 in that area. So it's a long run of computers.
It is.
And it's amazing. Now.
It's unfortunate that these, tanked eventually.
Well, it tanked. It's just computer ran its course. So a lot of people think the MZ stands for Microcomputer Z80.
Not me.
No, I didn't think that.
I think it stands for copier.
Don't just think it stands for. But I don't know what it stands for. I don't think anyone truly knows. It's Japanese. Funny thing about looking up information for a Japanese computer, this was one of the hardest things to find any cool information on. It was super tough, and I had to go into a lot of translated pages and stuff, so it got a little funky.
And on top of that, the emulation for this was a breeze.
Yeah,
absolute breeze.
It is funny. It's funny how that works. So let's just dig into the MZ a little bit. We're gonna talk mostly about the MZ 2500 line of computers. Now, these things that early on had the old built-in computer, monitor, keyboard, all in one, that gimmick, and then eventually branched out.
Yeah, the 2500 is pretty much right in the middle, right?
It's sort of.
It's on the middle, a little on the low end.
It came out in 1985. Now.
Oh no, it's okay. That's pretty much middle.
I looked to see. Hey, let's see how many they sold. I don't know. How successful was the line? I don't know. It was a crapshoot.
Yeah.
It looked something like a normal computer, the old Bay Special, that sort of thing. But it's just there's not a whole lot to it. So these had a Zilog Z80B in them, the 2500s, with a speed of 6 megahertz, RAM up to 256K. They shipped with, as far as I can tell, they shipped with 128K. That's pretty good.
85, yeah.
Video RAM 64K, right?
Wow.
They had
that has to be
shared. They had graphics modes up to 640 by 400. They had 256 colors displayable at low res, of course. And then if you go up to 640 by 400, you get 4 colors on there. It had 3-channel sound, pretty good. This one had a built-in 3.5-inch disk drive, although I read that most of the MZ line stuck with cassettes for a long time. In fact, that was sort of to their detriment, because by the time that the MZs came out, by the time they adapted to a 3.5-inch floppy drive, other people had been there for quite a while, so that they were kind of slow on that. The nickname for the MZ 2500 is the Super MZ.
Yes, Super MZ.
Yeah. This was a successor to the MZ2000 line. Now, Brett, I think your machine that the game you played had a monochrome to it, but I don't. Did they have a color display for that? Do you know?
I do not think so. I think that is. We went in with the assumption that the MZ2000, which is what my game played on, and the MZ2500, which was what Aaron's game played on, were compatible. They were not. At least not that we could find. My game was a monochrome tape game. Aaron's game was a color disc game.
Yeah.
And I tried running it, his game on my emulator and my game on his emulator. Nothing.
No.
It just sat there and was like, "What are you doing?"
No way. It would not work. Now, this is the final 8-bit model of the MZ, which is the 2500. So up to this point, up past this point, everything goes in the 16-bit realm. But as an 8-bit computer, this was a pretty good computer. I mean, it's a pretty speedy.
Yeah.
This thing was a pretty decent machine. Now, I should mention the price on these. When this thing debuted, it was 198,000 yen. That seems like so much. Well, it is.
Yeah, that's like $1,500.
It's $1,800 US today. In today's wad, $4,300.
Yeah.
So this was a pricey. This was not the ZX Spectrum.
No. But of course, this was way more powerful than the ZX Spectrum as well.
In the Japanese computer magazines, the nickname for the Super 2500 was the Phoenix, which I don't know why. I don't know why that was.
It was the rebirth of the computer.
Yeah, so let's talk. I looked at some of the games. I actually played a lot of the games on the old Sharp 2500 here. Just some standouts that were mentioned. I played every single one of these, except for 2. Xevious. There's an awesome version of Xevious on here. I don't know if you looked at it.
I did not.
It was very good. They had a version of Pac-Man. They had Moonchild. They had a game called Damon Crystal, which I tried like gangbusters to play because it's one of the few games that support the 256 color graphics on the screen.
Right.
But I couldn't find it. And I looked. And trust me, finding this stuff was impossible. We had to shoot our own video this week. We had to do everything because it was just, there's nothing out there. There's one, it's funny, on the 2500 line, there's like one guy that took an emulator and recorded about 15 seconds of video for a bunch of stuff, and that was it.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, it was odd because, like I said, finding an emulator and finding disk images for that emulator was pretty easy. Even when I needed...
Although not all the disk images were there, that's for
correct.
sure.
And I had to find my own emulator for the 2000. It was pretty easy as well.
Yeah.
I'll go into it more on when I talk about my game, but this has got a pretty good community behind it.
Yeah. I wonder if you're... I noticed, I don't know how your emulator, the one you used, worked, but I had to... mine would come up automatically to 2500, but the one I used for years, I had to go in there and do a little typing to get the thing to come up.
Yep.
And it was an interesting DOS. I guess Sharp has their own version of DOS.
Their own basic type language. Yeah.
It was different. It was easy. I looked. It's funny when you look at the older machines, the MZ80 machines. They are they're very old. I mean, they're from the late 70s. Yeah. And they do have that sort of petty feel to them, like the Commodore PET, those old, or like a TRS-80 Model 1 and 3.
Oh, they're so petty.
Yeah. And it's funny, even the oldest series, some had color graphics. So they were supporting color way early on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting because, if you look at the early TRS-80 models 1 and 3 and 2, they were all monochrome the whole time. So from this, and I will say, like I said, I played a bunch of games to try to figure out which one I wanted to play. I played probably 10 games, and something else, of course, the language barrier.
Yeah, which knocks out pretty much all the role-playing stuff.
And a lot of these were role-playing, I noticed, including a couple hentai games I came across. Yes. So that was cooking back in the day. Couldn't play those. But I did finally come across one. Woo! So I will start the show this week. Let's start the show. And
we did. It was like 15 minutes ago.
Oh, shut up, My game was Laydock. Laydock, Sally. Remember that one? Eric Clapton? No? Laydock. Listen, with a name like Laydock, it has to be good, right? Had you ever heard of this game?
Absolutely not.
Well, guess what? I hadn't either. So I picked Laydock. What is Laydock, you ask? Well, this is a game released in '85. Now, this came out on multiple platforms, Brent. The old FM Towns, I think, got a copy. The MSX, the Sharp, and I believe this also came out on the X68000, I think.
Speaking of that, I don't think the MX line of computers had any exclusives. At least none that I could find. Maybe a couple role-playing games or something, but they were mostly, it was Portamania over there.
Now, this was developed by T&E Soft Inc., which I'll get into them a little later. And this was the first game in the Laydock series. That's right. This is a series of games.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think any of the other ones came out on this particular platform, but there was a series of these games. So, what is Laydock, aside from a dumb name? Because it is dumb. I don't know I'm sure it means something, but I don't know what it is. So, Laydock is sort of your classic shoot 'em up game, space shooter in the vein of, say, I would say this one would the most closely resemble would be maybe a Gorf or something. It's a game where you could literally go all over the screen.
It's absolutely nothing like Gorf.
When I say that, I mean Gorf let you actually had vertical and horizontal.
Yeah,
movement.
but this had the screen scrolled in this.
Okay, how about Battle Squadron for the Amiga? There you go. It's a game where you can move all over the screen and there's aliens coming from everywhere. How's that? So you move your little ship, the Laydock Express, and you fire on these guys. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. It is sort of it's not that special, except when you get in a 2-player, which I'll get to that in a moment. So you roll through Laydock. Now you've got six levels on this thing, and the levels are, I will say, they vary dramatically in graphical prowess. The first level they do. The first level is your classic space level. Now, there were some flourishes, I have to say, I thought were cool.
Okay.
For starters, this is one of the few games where there are asteroids in space, right?
Yes.
This is one of the few games I've ever seen where the bad guys can just run right into the asteroids.
And I respect the heck out of this game for that.
You respect it for that?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's easily earned respect. So anyway, in the first level, you're flying through space. Now, you will encounter enemies that just sort of come out and attack. Now, the different enemies have sort of different styles of attack, and they actually change. Like, for example, at the beginning of this game, there's a certain type of enemy that just kind of careens down like lazily, and then basically all you do is just shoot it, but later on it'll come down and actually start firing and stuff. So you can see, I shot my own footage for this, and you can see if you're watching this on video that I'm kicking butt here.
Let me guess, you picked joystick 1 and not joystick 2.
That's right. So at the end of the first stage is the boss ship. Okay, this has bosses. Now this boss is smallish. It's bigger than you. It's about 3-4 times as big as your ship. It comes out, and it launches these things that come out the side. Now I beat this thing on my first try, which is not normal for me. And the secret plan is you get right up on this guy. I mean, almost where you're touching him, and you shoot as fast as you can. One thing this game doesn't have is the ability for you to know if you're actually hurting the boss in any way. There's no boss life bar. The boss don't flash. It doesn't do jack squat on some of these levels, and the other ones you do. And then eventually you blow this sucker up and you take off pretty good. Then second level is this is an eye screw up level. It's like a Mars. The planet you're over is red.
Yes.
It's the red in the MZ style, which is like
not good.
It smacks you in the face style.
It's painful.
It's brutal red. So you're flying over sort of an industrial. There's like pipes basically. I don't know what this means. I think you're attacking like a water treatment facility on Mars. That's the thing I could figure as you fly through. At the end of that level, you've got to attack this 5-pointed base. There's a 5 like little small domes, very small or points that you have to blow up, and when you do it, they're all dead. It's super simple, and I'm assuming you got this far, didn't you?
Yes. You know how I beat the base?
No.
I literally sat there.
What do you mean?
Because I was at this point in the game, I thought there might be a bomb button.
Yeah.
So I was trying to find the bomb button.
Yeah.
And then I won.
So what happened? It just ended?
It was just like, okay, stage 3, here we go.
Wow. That stage is one of the easiest end bosses in the history of man. You can beat him in like 1 second.
Yeah, you have to. He's throwing a lot at you, but I literally I thought maybe it was an endurance boss. Maybe I
Yeah.
just had to sit around and then something would appear that I could shoot and kill.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was trying to hitting different keys, hitting different buttons, trying to bomb.
Yeah.
And eventually I just won.
Wacky.
I was just like, okay.
Yeah, there were no bombs as far as I know.
No.
So the third level is what I like to call the space level 2.
Yeah.
You're flying through space, meteors, the whole 9
This
yards.
is why I was like, what are you talking about? This game doesn't have unique levels.
This is a different level, and at the end of this level, you fight the what I like to call the round ship tossing space aircraft carrier.
Yeah, this was a big aircraft carrier.
This was the Yamamoto or whatever from the old Star Blazers space dock, mobile space dock command.
Maybe a Laydock.
Yeah, and so basically this one is a lot harder. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't get past this guy.
Yeah, this is where I died as well. And it does, they let you continue and choose the last stage that you beat.
Yeah.
But boy, it was tough to care.
Well, I mean, don't say that. It's my game, yo. So you get past this guy, and when you blow him up, then you go. Now I would say this is probably the second best looking level. The fourth level. This is the industrial pipes level with a different color, but actually the color helps. The red's gone, and it's not bad. It looks pretty good. Again, these levels are pretty much more of the same, except with different backgrounds. I mean, that's face facts. I didn't think there was a whole lot of variance to it.
Well, I agree, but you were the one that was like, yeah, backgrounds, best part of the game.
I'm just telling you, I didn't. Listen, I'm grabbing at straws here. On the fourth level. You've got to fight that. You have to fight that 5-point enemy base again, except this time it's more like domes and it's harder. But it's the same exact kind of situation. You blow that up, and then you get to the really cool level. Not really. It's another space level. This is another one where you fight this big. This time the ship at the end is really cool. He does look really good. It's this big wide ship. He looks awesome. You have to fight him. It's in space, of course. When you blow him up, you go to the final level. This is the best looking level. So they say the best for last. This is the industrial internal level. It's sort of Tron-y looking. It's kind of that same kind of Tron blue with the piping and stuff. It looks pretty good. And then you fly through that. And finally, at the end of this thing, there are these 6 pillars. They're blue pillars. They have eyeballs basically on top of them. There's something that opens and closes. They look like eyeballs. They're little things that shoot bombs. And you can only blow them up when they're open. When the eye's open,
yeah,
you shoot them
typical.
in there. And then eventually, when you shoot them all, you win. And at the end, not to ruin it for anyone that's going to go home and play some Laydock. At the end, and when you blow that thing up, there's a close-up of your ship. I mean, it takes up the whole screen, and your guy's in there. He looks at you, and he goes like, ah. He gives you he waves at you. He goes, pow, and that's the way it ends. Pretty good ending, I thought. At least they had something in there, Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, wow. This game sounds awesome, and you're okay. You're not thinking now.
No, I played the game.
Yeah, this game is pretty generic as far as space fighters go. There's not anything that they don't bring any real new content to the table until you play 2 players. 2 players is where the action is, Brent. I guess you didn't try that.
Show me some action.
In 2 players, you can actually join your ship with your partner up, and one guy flies while the other guy shoots. Pretty cool. There's some team-up moves, and this is carried on in the sequels, I'm told. So I think it's kind of neat because when you're in two ship mode, you're half as fast and twice as wide. That's the way you do it. But you have tons of firepower. It's neat that this is a game that
I'm permanently in 2-ship mode.
Well,
I'm half as fast and twice as wide.
Listen, this is sort of the base. I mean, this is 1975. This is probably a pretty cool game back in '85.
Okay, let's break this down a little bit. Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm not gonna bury it. Is Laydock a bad game? No, it's not. It has about 7 or 8 different enemy types that have different flight patterns, and they have different ways they attack, and they evolve as you go through the levels.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
I mean, they shoot more and fly different. I mean, they're the same guys.
There are enemies that they will go left to right or right to left across the screen, and when they get lined up with you, they will come straight for you.
Yeah.
That's their phase 1. Their phase 2 is they glide left to right, they line up with you, and they move forward while shooting. Their phase 3 is while they're moving left or right, they're shooting. When they line up with you, they shoot, and they go straight forward. So the enemies do evolve a little bit. Most of the time, it's not shooting, and then they are shooting. So it's not like monumental, but it's something. It's something to break up the monotony, which thumbs up for that.
You know, the funny thing about a game...
Stop.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done. Go ahead. You just keep going.
Thing 2.
Yeah.
Game has a shield. It's not a one-hit kill game. It's a one life, but you get, 9 or 10 hits.
Yeah.
Depending on what you hit, your shield goes away more. That's good.
Yeah.
For a game like that, that's really nice.
And the display was on the right-hand side to give it that vert feel. It takes up the whole right-hand side of the screen is taken up with the stats and whatnot.
The movement in this game is smooth.
Yep.
The shooting is okay.
Yep.
It's one of those, you can only have so many bullets on the screen at the same time. So if you're real close up to the boss ship, you can really lay into it. The risk versus reward thing. It has score, which means you can compete for score. All that is good. The problem with the game is it doesn't take any risks. It doesn't say, here's the awesome thing you've been waiting for. It just never does that. And so it's not a bad game. It's certainly not a bad game. This is a down the middle 5 out of 10 game. If you're in it, if someone's playing it, sit down, take your turn at it. You'll pick it up in an instant, and you'll have a good. You won't have a great time, but you'll have a good time.
Yeah, I'm not. I think everything you said is pretty much straight up. It is. If we put this in the perspective of 1985. Because games like this often don't age well,
Yeah.
This is a perfectly serviceable. The controls are fine, like Brent said. It's not that hard. I think you could sit down and probably figure out how to beat this in a couple of days if you played it long enough. The sound's fine. For what it is,
No.
Oh, here we go.
The music's crap.
Well, it's
the music.
The fact that it's got music.
The music is a 10-second clip on continuous repeat.
No, it's not that bad. It's better. You got to think in 85.
Are you insane?
This is 85. It's my point. It's a long time ago. You got to grade these things within the structure of when they were made.
No, this was a programmer that could do graphics, that could do programming, that could do bug fixes and all that stuff. And then he was like, "Oh crap, what am I going to do for sound?"
No,
it was an afterthought. The 10-second clips are interesting, but they're not good enough to loop endlessly on a 5-minute level.
Let's talk
Sounds
about
crap.
Just while we're here, let's talk about the programmers. This T&E Soft, that stands for Technology and Entertainment Software. They were a Japanese video game developer. Now listen to this. They're best known for one game, Hydeide.
Yes.
Which is, I believe, is that
super
game
popular.
that isn't that one of the games that the angry video game nerd destroyed?
It
was.
It's a very popular game, but boy, it is not for Americans.
It's
very Japanese.
They did a game called Planet Mephius. It says here the first episodic point-and-click adventure, and they did a variety of golf games, including a game I've never heard of, but I'd like to see Disney Golf. That might be kind of fun. So there's your folks. Of course, as is the Japanese tradition, I've got no idea who worked on it. No clue who programmed it. But overall, it's okay.
It's okay.
Can you pick it up and play it right now? Yes. Yeah, absolutely can. Now, we did have some listener reviews. I say reviews. We actually had a couple reviews here. So let's go with our good buddy, our main man, Graham W. Webke, who's right now whisking his way home from Ireland. Played 2-player mode with Rushi during some downtime in Amiga Ireland 2020, and it's a 6 out of 10 type of shooting game. It controls well, looks fine, with decent sounds. I found many of the deaths to be a little bit on the cheap side. I don't recall the X68000 version being like this. It's worth a play, but I feel there are better vertical shooters out there. Also, Roshi kicked in. We haven't heard from him for a while. I really don't feel I can give a fair assessment of Laydock. It's a very vanilla shooting experience, with the main hook being able to combine ships in 2-player, though I don't feel that ever resulted in the force multiplayer multiplying power that it should have. While doubling your firepower, it effectively cuts your health in half and removes your ability to effectively control the screen. I'd read that a ship combining feature where both players could form a single craft for double the firepower, but rather than split into a pilot and gunner, it simply gave full control to player one. This playfield is spacious, and I've grown a fondness for the heavily dithered aesthetics of the Japanese 8-bit machines, as it feels very complementary to the anime designs. Enemies, especially bosses, seem to be balanced for co-op play, meaning that they have a much more health than as a Euro shooter. The early levels suffer from a meandering pace, and unless you load an existing save, you're going to have to play through them from the start with no option to skip ahead. So thank you guys for chiming in on that.
I think all that is very fair.
Yeah, I think so. I like the fact that these two guys went to Amiga Ireland and played this game. Bum, bum, bum.
Hey, that's fandom for you. I love it.
It's something.
I love it.
So Brent, one thing I wanted to mention before we kicked into this thing is that when it comes to the Sharp, and since we're moving from the 2500 here,
okay,
I downloaded this with the emulator and a bunch of games. I was like, okay, here we go. And I was like, surely out of these 20 or 30 games, I'll find some real big gems in here. And I played through a ton of games, and this was what I chose.
Yeah.
There was a lot of games that were Japanese. There were a lot of games that were role-playing games, and there were a lot of games I just didn't have any idea what was going on or didn't load right. So you're going to, if you delve into the realm of these Sharp MZ 2500, bring a bag of lunch because you're going to be there a while.
Well, I mean, if you can read Japanese, maybe some of the role-playing and adventure games will be fun for you. Obviously, we can't. Otherwise, it's a portomania, man.
Yeah.
Port.
Yeah,
It had ports for everything, which, I mean, I don't think that's fun. I don't like it had Excitebike.
Yep.
Great game.
Yep.
Does it play okay on this? It plays okay.
Yeah. It played good.
Am I going to pick Excitebike to review on this? No.
Right.
Because if you're going to play Excitebike, you're going to go to the NES. You're going to go to the Play Choice 10. You're not going to come here and play it.
You're right.
So that's how I looked at it.
So we'll close the door right there on Laydock.
Oh, close the door, huh? Well, I looked over the list of games, and I found one that came out for the MZ 2000.
Yeah.
And I chose Door.
I was hoping you called it the 2000 because that would have been great.
I have seen Door. Door is okay. Let me back up. I was just saying, like, Excitebike, I'd play it on the ball. Better. This was ported to everything, and the best version's on the NES. I'm sorry. However.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There is a difference in this. This is actually Door mkII, which added 100 extra levels.
Yeah.
None of which I saw, but they're there, so that's what makes this a little unique. So, Aaron, have you ever heard of Door before?
I'd never heard of this game, and I was surprised it was in monochrome. I'm pleasantly surprised, actually. This reminded me of the old Dick Smith System 80 for a brief moment. I was like, wow, this looks like one of those games.
Have you heard of Nakamura?
Yeah. Shinsuke Nakamura, the wrestler?
No.
Well, then, nope.
This is Kiichi Nakamura, the creator of Dragon Warrior.
Okay, I heard of that.
Okay. I want to go into a little bit of history because he is the guy who made Door.
Okay. And
you might be thinking, that's a pretty big departure. He had to have been pretty young when he made this.
Yeah.
He was pretty young. In fact, he made this game for a contest where he entered it and didn't win. He actually got second place in the programming contest. But he did this while he was still in high school.
It makes you wonder what won that contest.
I know what won that contest. A war game, a tile-based war game. And the winner of that got a million yen prize, which is about $10,000. Nakamura picked up second place, and he got 50,000 yen. He took that money and then went out and bought an NEC PC98 for the equivalent of $3,000. And that was his whole goal. That's the whole reason why he entered the tournament. In fact, the computer shop guy said, hey, I know you want this machine. Enter this tournament, go, win it, and go take the money. And that's exactly what he did. But that was not his first touch into programming. He did many things beforehand. I just want to run through a couple examples. They worked with a magazine called IO Magazine, and he submitted a bunch of things to it, and then they bundled it up and put it out for publication. He had a machine code tool that you input machine code, it spits it out, and that was earning him 20,000 yen a week. And then he also ported Space Panic and called it Alien Part 2.
Close enough.
In May of 91.
So he cloned Space Panic.
Well, he made his own, yes.
Let's call it spade a spade here.
And that was released on cassette, and his royalties from that was about 200,000 yen. And then in January of 92, he took Scrambler and they actually had to change the name to Attacker.
Scramble.
Yes, I'm sorry. Bundled that up, and he made 1 million yen royalties off of that. Then he took River Patrol, called it River Rescue, bundled it up, and made 2 million yen off of that.
It's amazing that you've kept track of this guy's finances. It's like you've got his checkbook in your hand.
Here's what's crazy.
Yeah.
All of that before he got out of high school.
Not bad.
So to say that this guy is a programming genius is an understatement. The dude went on to make his own company, Chunsoft, and I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. Yeah, it is. Chunsoft, sorry. And they not only publish, they develop, and they are still in business today.
Wow.
And he still works with them. He is no longer a program. He's more upper management type stuff now.
Yeah. That's going to be gratifying to have a company be around that long.
Absolutely. And all of that kind of stemmed, and now obviously he was making some serious money as a high schooler doing programming and stuff, but Door is what got him into gaming from winning that contest, because now he had contacts on the inside, and Door got published, obviously, and was a huge commercial success. And it was ported to many systems: the NEC PC 8801, the NEC PC 6001, the FM7, the Sharp MZ2000, the Sharp X1, the FM77, the MSX, and the Famicom.
So no American machines got it.
Nintendo, yes.
So this is an American release on the NES?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this thing came out on 5 1/4. It came out on 3 1/2. It came out on floppy cassette.
Yeah.
It came out on cartridge, and as late as 2014, you could download this for a phone officially, and you had to pay 300 yen a month. It was a rental service through the game. So Door has stood the test of time. With all that out of the way, huge hats off to this guy. He really took something that he was interested with in his childhood and worked at it. And he had a computer club. There were many people around him, and many of those computer club people helped him form his company. So it was just him for the most part, but he had a lot of support, which is very important. And he hats off to them. He gives support and a lot of credit.
That's why I started our computer club. I'm hoping these suckers are going to lift me up. So far, not so good.
So, how is Door played? Door is a very simple concept that you have to trap aliens behind a door. And it is a static screen with multi-levels, with ladders, and doors. And the door handle will be either on the left or the right, which that's the way you have to walk past the door in order to open it. When that happens,
I learned that the hard
way. Aliens will just go forward. And if they walk into the door, they'll go inside, and they only stay in there for a couple seconds. So you have to walk past the door the opposite direction, closing the door behind them, and then that's how you get your points. And the points, this is a high score machine. How many monsters you catch at one time is how many points you get. So you really want to bundle these aliens up so they're kind of mushed together and run them all onto the door at the same time and then close it and get your big points.
Yeah.
There are 4 aliens varieties in this game, and each of them have their own walking habits, their own how to get the guy. Same as like a Pac-Man with the ghost, and several games had this concept, especially back in the day. And because of that, this is sort of a puzzle game, because if you do the same movements time after time after time, you will get the same results time after time after time. There is never, the enemies will never just go a random way. They're all programmed to go one way or another. So because of that, some people consider this a platform puzzler. I think that's a little generous.
Yeah.
I see what they're saying. It's kind of a platform puzzler the same way that Burger Time.
It reminds me of more like a Zookeeper almost in some ways.
The points are certainly Zookeeper-like.
Yeah.
But the gameplay, you know what he actually modeled this off of? It's going to blow your mind. You're never going to get it.
And well, I mean, some of the leveling looks a little bit like Space Panic, which so it's funny you just mentioned that. He worked on that.
Sure.
But I don't know what he would have modeled it off of.
This was his take on Dig Dug.
Yeah,
and one way, I mean, he was interviewed and said that. That wasn't just me making it up. But one thing you can definitely see that from is when you move, the music plays.
Yeah.
And when you're not moving, the music stops playing, which is a brutal killer in Dig Dug. It gets me killed all the time.
Because you want to hear the music.
I want to hear the music. And this is the same way. A few neat things that this does is the enemies, there's usually, 5 or 7 or so on the screen at one time. And as you defeat them, as you trap them behind doors, they become faster. So it really does have that speed up element. Plus, there's a fruit or something, a candy in the middle of the screen that will come up occasionally that you collect for points. There are a few other obstacles, like little thumbtacks on the ground that if you step on them, you'll die. And you have the ability to jump. And the ability to jump in this game allows you to jump over enemies, jump over the thumbtacks. It allows you to have a lot of maneuverability, but it also is sort of a trap, because you will jump over some enemies, and some enemies will actually jump with you. So you'll jump, and they'll jump, and you just collide, and you have to learn what enemy that is, and you'll never jump them, because it's impossible. They always jump when you jump. Fun game. I really enjoyed my time with this. What did you think about it?
Well, I had not heard of this one or seen it, and I knew when it came up. I'm like, okay, I like the look of it. We talked about this with Dick Smith. These older machines with the monochrome, they have a certain the resolution and the detail is not something you got a lot on the older machines. And
that's true.
So it looks good.
It does.
They did a good job. I knew right away. I pretty much knew that what I had to do. At first I thought, man, do I just go into these doors and come out the other one? But I realized pretty quick when you shut the door. The handle thing's good. This game is deceptive because it starts out real slow, and like you said, the more monsters you trap behind the doors, the quicker it goes. And man, at the end, it's going at a pretty breakneck pace. Yeah. I liked it, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
You know what I like. And this was right up my alley. Of course, it's a greed base, which I like. You can try to get a bunch of suckers behind you in a Benny Hill style chase down the hall. Sometimes I'd miss a door. Sometimes I'd be on the wrong side of a door. That was always frustrating. Sometimes the jump mechanic. This guy is no world-class jumper. He's no Mario.
Yeah, he has just enough clearance to get over an alien. Yeah, that's about it.
So you can't. You're not going to be setting up Donkey Kong style barrel, which I wish he had a little more height on his jump. There's a little bit of an overlay because of the way he's made up as a block, and so you can see a little bit of the black square when you jump over stuff. But I mean that's part of the course on these older games. I didn't get super far. I didn't get a chance to play this a ton. I played it about 2 hours throughout the week.
That's about what I put into it.
And but it was fun. I could definitely see where you could get better at it. And I could definitely see. There were a lot of elements of different games in it that I liked. I mean, you've got the ladder element, the platform element, the jumping element of the stuff like a Donkey Kong. The door is pretty interesting. The bad guys are pretty smart, and they're pretty different, and so it makes it a little more complex, I guess, than you would expect it to be. I don't know what the other levels. Actually, there were tons of levels. I never got that anywhere near the high.
This version has up to 100 levels, and the levels certainly later in the game get a little more puzzly. For example, there's one level where all it is you and one of the jumpy enemies. And you have to lure him to behind you to jump on the platforms to get him over to the door to get him to trapped into it. So there are certainly some elements that are super puzzly in this, but I think overall it's more of a points game where you're really going for points. The music when you're walking around is great. I really enjoyed that. I thought this was an incredible game, and I thought the history for it was great. Your main character in this is Chun, and that is from Nakamura's nickname in high school. They called him Chun, which is now the name of his company. Yeah. So he really,
what if he wore that hat? Because your guy has this like dopey geek hat on.
Yeah, the propeller hat.
I wonder if he wore one of those back in the day.
It's hard to tell.
I bet he did. It wouldn't surprise me.
So, Aaron, were there any user reviews on this?
There were listener reviews. Every time you call them user reviews, I'm always bizarrely.
They're users of our product.
We have a product? Let's win. Graham wrote in. Now, he said, this is his opinion. He didn't actually get to play this because he's in Ireland. He said he didn't get to play this particular version of the game, but he'd previously seen this game on a recent trip of his to Japan. He said, I can understand why it was very popular in Japan with this gameplay, but I did find it weird that some doors could not open in either direction. But I guess that's just a quirk. Did you see that at any point where you couldn't get the door open?
Yeah, that you can only open the door handle has to be on the same side that you're walking into it to open the door, and that's part of the gameplay.
Once you have a closed door with an alien trap, you cannot reopen that door again.
That's true.
Chun is a bit slower than his foes, which adds to the tension.
Yep.
But he can jump over them if necessary. Give it a try. So, Graham, having seen this in Japan, not this particular version. I did look at a couple other versions of this, and this one looked. I thought this looked fine. I mean,
yeah, the NES version is the go-to version for this. Most people.
Did you play this back in the day?
No, I did not.
That was my question.
However, I think this is something worth getting an emulator, not necessarily an MZ emulator to play this, although something about the fan base for the MZs, if you go to archive.org, because you have to download this and play it off tape, it has all the instructions on what you have to type, when you have to type it, all the commands to get this game up and running. And I noticed all of the MZ 2000 games on archive.org have those instructions.
Yeah.
So I think the community for this emulator or for this computer is incredible. It really looks like they're trying to get people in and play this stuff. Would I play this? When I go back and play this on a MC 2000? Probably not. Just because playing it on a NES emulator or a Famicom emulator would be easier, and you would go from monochrome graphics to color. But I would definitely grab an emulator and give this a try.
It's funny you should mention that before we hang it up on the MZ. When I was looking into this machine, I noticed that they said there is a huge fan base for this in Japan. I mean, this is a pretty popular machine.
Absolutely.
They said in December 2012, Sharp published all the manuals for the MZ80 on their Twitter page, and it was promoted as a Christmas present. And by a week later, it had been downloaded almost 4 million times. A lot of fans are real happy with Sharp for doing it, and they said they really appreciate it. Yeah. So I like that's kind of neat that they're supporting them like that.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what else is neat, Brent?
What's
it's
that?
Neat. It's the wheel.
Oh,
it's the wheel, brother. Get it out. Let's do it.
All right.
Tell them what we got.
Added to the wheel this week in our normal slot was zombie games. And in our retro rewind, we've got the Super Nintendo.
This is Nintendo's shot. It's the only shot it's got.
Except for all the other versions.
Lift it up a little bit. Let's let the people see. Okay, fire it up.
I'm kind of hoping for the retro rewind, Aaron. I'm not going to lie.
I'm not. I was like this. Okay, the Atari. So now this was going to be the 5200. Which
the 5200 Atari.
So...
Woo, that's a pretty good spin.
Yeah.
If you're not going to get some Super NES, some 5200 Atari is pretty good.
Now, some of you eagle-eyed viewers and listeners might recall that we did actually touch on a 5200 game once, which was in our pack-ins. If you recall, I remember I played Breakout on it, but this will be...
that was horrible.
Well, tough.
Let's hope things get better.
I can't... Go hold your breath, pal. I want to thank our good buddy, the Dunkster, Duncan Styles, for our cool 3D Tron-like graphics. Also, I want to thank our good buddy Barkbit, does the closing number.
I love this
for our
closing
tune.
number.
The closing number is great. Brent, why don't you go over, now that we're on episode 101, any previous announcements you want to go back over from last week?
A couple things I want to touch on. Our podcast is hosted by Anchor now, anchor.fm.
Anchor's away, my friend.
That is the only way that ARG gets directly funded, since we don't have a Patreon page or we don't do the Twitch. All the Twitch subscription goes into the big overall pot of Amigos. So if you want to support ARG specifically, you got to go to Anchor. You can give us a listen on there. That helps out. Or you can actually become a supporter on there. We're not going to twist anybody's arm for that. But just know it is available if you want to support ARG directly.
The good thing about Anchor that we didn't mention is now, every show we've ever done is available.
Yes.
As opposed to before, there was only about 20 or 30.
Yes. And every show is divided into two parts where you've got the history and game one. And if your podcast listener supports chapters, you can hit straight to game two and just kind of cut off that middleman if you're just interested in one thing or another. And also, if your podcaster doesn't support chapters, grab the one off of Anchor. It's actually really good. It's really good. That's the one I use now.
Right on. We want to say a hearty hi-ho to all our buddies that are coming back from mkII Ireland. They're literally, many of them, including the boat, are in the air right now, whisking back to their country of origin. Looks like a good time was had by all. So I'm glad everybody had fun with that. And I think we're going to have a good time next week when we tackle the Atari 5200. It's been a while since we jumped on an Atari system.
It has been. Well,
I can't remember
Falcon.
the last time. Yeah, well.
And I love the Falcon, so we'll see what happens.
There you go. So, please, tune in next week and join us. And hopefully, fingers crossed, for real this time, we will try to be live. Once again, we're thwarted by our ISP. They've got to get this thing fixed. They're killing us.
Stupid ASP.
That's the truth. So, until next week, Excelsior.
Door.